Hi guys, and welcome back to another Is It Worth It review. Today we are going to talk about topping DX5 Lite. And this one is very interesting because basically it is a DX5 that's $100 cheaper and comes without MQA decoding. And if you maybe have watched my DX5 review already, you already know then what you get with this one. And what you do get is the usual digital inputs, meaning USB, optical and coaxial. There's also a Bluetooth antenna on board if you want to connect to it wirelessly. And on the output side, we have both single-ended RCAs and balanced XLR outputs. Then in the front, we have one single-ended 6.35mm headphone out, and next to it you can see XLR output, but that one is not balanced. It's there just for convenience, meaning if you already have that kind of cable with that kind of connector on your headphone, you can connect it directly to this unit without looking for a different set of cables. But the connection itself is not differential, it's not balanced. It's single-ended as well as 6.35mm. Then there's the same volume knob that also doubles as a click button. You do get a small plastic remote like this one, and the monochromatic LCD display, the same as with the X5. What's different, I basically already explained. This one doesn't feature MQA decoding. Everything else is exactly the same. And because of that, only the sticker, as you can see here, is different in the front right corner. In the original DX5 it said MQA, here it says Lite. Everything else is the same. They're both based around the same Sabre DAC chip. Actually, I think it's two of these Sabre DAC chips. And they have same amount of power on their headphone outputs, meaning it's almost 2 watts, I think, I'll put that on the screen, into 32 ohms. But more than that, the output is of a low impedance, meaning that you can connect low impedance headphones like planars or in-ears and it will work fine without any sort of distortion. Also, if you happen to have something on the opposite side of the spectrum, like really high impedance headphones, it will also work with that well because it offers high voltages on its output. I think it goes up to like 29 or something like that volts, which is required for high impedance headphones to sound dynamic and nice. So the same as the original DX5, this is a very versatile device. But that actually brings the question, does it really sound the same? And I can tell you it does, it definitely does. So if you already watched my DX5 review and all of the comparisons that I made, you already know everything there is to know about it. It's the exact same device. Okay, let's start with line outputs first. If you use it as a DAC only with a line level output, it sounds decent, but it's nothing spectacular really. That means it doesn't really sound like these few latest topping DACs that I reviewed, like topping E70 or E70 Velvet, that have much richer tone timbre and full-bodied tonality. This one is actually like old topping. It sounds crisp, linear, very detailed, kinda tonally flat, and sound staging is also a little bit flat and shallow. It's like a wall of sound, not much depth to talk about there, but tonally it's quite neutral. Highs are well extended, bassline is tight and grippy more than it's grunty and powerful. And the mid-range is again quite linear, informative, not much fullness or something like that. That's for its DAC line output. And if you primarily want to use it for that, I can definitely suggest E70 or E70 Velvet as a better sounding DACs. But these two are DACs only. And DX5/DX5 Lite have headphone output, and that headphone output is actually a star of the show here, because anything I connected to DX5 Lite sounded energetic and clean and tonally full, which is interesting because I didn't get that feeling with the line output, but headphone output seems to have such tuning that complements this internal DAC very well. And yeah, the sound is just very clean, very energetic with a dark background. And even more so, tones do have decent weight, body and palpability to them. And there's like a decent three-dimensional feel to those tones. And this is definitely not one of these sounds that focuses only on high frequency details. Even though this is a highly detailed sound and it has really a nice, clean edges, energetic, crisp edges of tones, you can so clearly separate everything going on in the sound stage. There is a tone, it finishes here, then there is like black emptiness, then there's another tone here. They're clearly defined, very clean, dark background, but it's not presented in a sort of analytical way. I never felt there's too much of high frequency detailing or sharpness added to this one, that annoying high frequency sharpness. There's definitely that tone core that gives body to instruments, vocals, and just everything happening, and that makes all those tones feel palpable and realistic. And if you're, for example, coming from topping DX3 Pro or Pro Plus, that's, in my opinion, quite a considerable upgrade in terms of that tonal fullness and palpability. DX3 Pro Plus has all of the detailing and dynamics and clarity of DX5 and DX5 Lite, but it sounds very thin and depleted in the mid-range, and it sounds dry and just, I don't like it. It's perfectly fine if you do, if that's your thing, but for me that's what I would describe as a bright, digital, thin sound that I do not enjoy. And DX5 doesn't do that. It's just simply much fuller sounding DAC. When I compared it to a cheaper SMSL C200 that's around 220, that's actually the same tonality. DX5 has much more similar tonality to C200, which is SMSL, than to its own younger sibling, DX3 Pro Plus. Once again, I like that, because I usually prefer this fuller, bolder, with greater tone timbre kind of tonality. Comparing these two, however, showed that DX5 Lite has slightly more energetic and cleaner sound with darker background than C200. The difference is not huge, but it's noticeable, especially with better headphones. So, for example, if I was using AKG K702, I could barely notice a difference between DX5 Lite and C200. Both sounded very natural, full, tonally speaking, and highly revealing. And in that case, you could as well go for C200. But when I moved to some more capable headphones like VRAM 1 and Gold Planar GL2000s, I started noticing that DX5 Lite actually has even fuller, more palpable tones that are slightly better defined and separated, and the space between them feels more empty and the background feels more dark. And also DX5 Lite and DX5 both, they have a little bit of more dynamic sound. There's greater punch and greater energy in tones than with C200. Once again, the difference is not huge, but with really good headphones, you notice it. With something like AKG K702 or hifiman's HE4XX, you do not notice that much. I'm saying this because I think it's important for buyers to know what to expect. Next, if you want me to compare it to something more expensive, I had a chance for a brief period of time to compare DX5 Lite and RME ADI-2 FS that I reviewed some time ago. And funny thing, the difference is not huge at all. Now, once again, if you're using really great headphones, you can notice that RME ADI-2 FS is just slightly richer in terms of tone timbre and like small tiny details like inner tone texture. For example, if you listen to an acoustic double bass, you'll notice that there's a little bit more texture and those inner vibrations of the double bass. Same goes for vocals, but the difference is really small. By the way, RME ADI-2 FS sounds exactly the same as this E70 and L70 stack, which is a little bit cheaper. I talked about that in the RME review, but what I wanted to say here is that yes, both RME and this stack sound a little bit richer and a little bit better, just a touch more wholesome than DX5 and DX5 Lite, which both sound a little bit more simplistic representation of this stack and RME. Like, tones are cleaned up a little bit, and they're cleaned of the finest possible layer of details and texture, but it still sounds very dynamic, very clean, and very full. Somewhere, I don't know, like 90% of what you get with this stack and with RME, you get maybe around 90% of that, or maybe 85, I don't know. There is no way to quantify this, by the way. I'm just mumbling numbers here. And anybody that does this is doing the same too, because there is no like scale to quantify what you subjectively hear. But I feel that some 85 to 90% of the sound that you get from this stack and from RME, you're getting from DX5 and DX5 Lite too, which actually makes it a great value and a great deal. Because it costs now, without MQA license, it costs only $350. And I seriously don't know anything costing this much that sounds this good, this well balanced, wholesome and powerful. And it's not choosy at all. If you have sensitive planners, very sensitive in-ears, or high impedance, power hungry beasts of headphones, DX5 and Lite version 2, they're happy to work with any of these. That, in my book, makes it a great buy and great deal and great value if you're looking for something to power your headphones. Or if you're looking to something to power your headphones primarily and maybe use it from time to time as a DAC. Because as a DAC, with its line outputs, it's maybe in line more with something a little bit older, like topping E50. It's definitely not in line with E70 and E70 Velvet. But E50 was also a good DAC. It is more affordable, but it's decent. It's neutral. It doesn't have much of a three-dimensional soundstage, but it's still good. On the other hand, if you need something that is going to be primarily a DAC, and the headphone output you consider just as an extra that you might use sometimes, I wouldn't choose DX5 Lite or DX5 for that matter for that kind of use. Because I find it to have an absolutely great headphone output, but just reasonably good DAC output. But if headphone output is what you primarily need, it's a stunning device and a stunning value. And that would be all for today, guys. Now, I'll leave the link to Hi-Fi College, nice guys that send this in for a review. And if you maybe decide to purchase DX5 Lite through that link, a small percentage would go to my channel and financing my work and time that I put into these honest reviews. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.